We've got details on Russell Westbrook's contract with the Sacramento Kings, and they are shocking to say the least. Plus, young Hansen spotted crying on the bench for the Blazers. What's going on there? The Pistons lose Jaden Ivey, and Tyler Herro may find himself at odds with the Miami Heat. A whole lot of news to get into today. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. I say it all the time, but 70% of you that watch our videos, you're not actually subscribed to the channel. Let's fix that. Hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get into it. So Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype reporting that the Sacramento Kings have indeed officially pen to paper signed Russell Westbrook, but it's a non-guaranteed one-year deal. League sources tell Hoops Hype. The part that should pop out there, it's the non-guaranteed side of that. Russell Westbrook, a former MVP, getting a non-guaranteed deal is extremely surprising. Now, non-guaranteed contracts or non-guaranteed portions of contracts are becoming more common in today's cap environment, where teams are being a little bit more cautious with their future salaries and wanting to make sure they maintain flexibility. But nonetheless, a player of Russell Westbrook's stature, a former MVP, to be on a non-guaranteed deal, that means the Sacramento Kings can waive Russ at any moment and incur no future money owed to him. Now, that's really important because typically NBA contracts, specifically for any players with any kind of status in the league, are fully guaranteed, meaning if a team wants to waive that player, they will still have to pay the player for the remainder of the contract. That's just pretty standard in the NBA. There are some players who have non-guaranteed deals. Toumani Camara, for example, hilariously, as good as he is, has non-guaranteed money on his deal. We've got, Zion Williamson has to meet certain weight requirements, games played requirements in order to guarantee certain portions of his contract, right? It's not completely impossible to have non-guaranteed money on the books, but it's typically lower status players who are just trying to get their foot in the door in the NBA, second round draft picks. Maybe we'll have some non-guaranteed money towards the end of their deals, things of that nature. A former MVP being on a non-guaranteed deal is pretty uncommon. In fact, the most recent one that I can think of would be Dwight Howard back in 2020 with the Lakers, where he really wanted to prove to the team that he was in it to win it, that he was going to be focused on making the squad, and said, hey, I will give you the power to, if I am not living up to my end of the bargain, I will give you the ability to cut ties with me and walk away. So interesting that this is the contract that Russ has chosen to sign with the Sacramento Kings. Curious to find out who pushed for that. Was Russell Westbrook? Did Russ offer it, as it was in the case of Dwight Howard back in 2020 with the Lakers, or I guess it was 2019 technically. It was that 2019-2020 season. Or did the Sacramento Kings say, look, Russ, we like you, but if you want us to sign you, this is going to be a non-guaranteed deal. Either way, should things not work out in Sacramento, and I've certainly questioned the fit with Russ in Sacramento, they do need a backup ball handler, and that's what he will reportedly be. He will be the backup to Dennis Schroeder, who had a great summer with Germany. They signed him to a much bigger deal than the one they got Russ on. Russ is just on a minimum contract, so he will indeed be the backup in Sacramento. Look, I think the Kings need shot creation, and Russ can help there. I'm not expecting them to waive him, but there are some fit concerns in terms of Russ being more of a score-first guy alongside a lot of score-first guys already on this roster, like Zach LaVine, like Malik Monk, like DeMar DeRozan. So if things really start going sideways in Sacramento, they could just decide to waive Russ and move on. But pretty unprecedented for a former MVP to have this kind of contract. Everybody give me your thoughts in the comment section. Is this the Kings protecting themselves? Is this the right decision for Russ to sign a non-guaranteed deal? Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Young Hansen crying on the bench for the Blazers. What is going on? We'll get to that next. The NBA is back, and I can't wait to see my team, the Lakers, or really any other NBA team in live action. There's just something special about actually going to the arena, seeing it in person, up close, the speed, the power, the athleticism. It's an unforgettable experience. TickPick is the best way to go see live sports in person. With over 20 million downloads, TickPick has you covered. NFL, NBA, concerts, festivals, you name it. TickPick gives you the lowest price guaranteed, no fees. What you see is what you pay. You want to go see the NBA's brightest stars? You want to use TickPick. TickPick has your back. Each ticket is backed by their buyer trust guarantee, so you can trust that your seats are legit. And of course, I've got a code for you guys. You can use code HMA for $20 off your first set of tickets at TickPick with a purchase of more than $100. That's $20 off any tickets with promo code HMA. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, TickPick, for sponsoring this video. Okay, Blazers rookie big man Hansen was caught crying on the bench after the Blazers preseason game against the Jazz, or during the game, I should say. He was upset with his performance, reportedly. Here he is. You can see him in tears on the Blazers bench from a preseason game. Is this going too far? Is he being overly emotional? Is this not manly, which is what we think of in today's society, right? Men aren't supposed to cry and all of that. Well, he said after the game that he was emotional. I didn't play well, but I could hear the fans sitting on my left. They were loud. I'm really grateful. So that's awesome that the fans were supportive of him in this moment. And I'll tell you what, I don't have a problem with this. In fact, I think that I would rather him be crying during a preseason game than the other way, than him be apathetic about his performance. What was his performance? Well, it wasn't great. Wasn't great. I think he's got a really intriguing skill set, the passing, the size, everything that he brings. But he had 6 fouls in 15 minutes, fouls out of the game in 15 minutes, and had 3 turnovers. Wasn't a great night for him. But very clearly, it affected him. It affected him on a very profound level. He does not want to have these kinds of performances. And to their credit, most of the responses on social media have been very positive. Never lose that intensity, somebody said. He's going to be a legend, somebody else said. Most of the responses took this the way I do, and that's that he cares. He really cares about this. If he is this upset about a preseason game, which is way too easy to simply dismiss, to say, well, it's preseason, it doesn't count anyway, right? This isn't going to count for our record. The fact that he's so upset with himself, I think it's actually positive. Again, some of the other responses here, he's going to be great. The heart, the will, no doubt. He'll get better. Finally, we're getting players that give AF, right? I think people are taking this to be not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of passion, a sign of a player who very much wants to be great. And I think the real key here is to remember, what is preseason all about? Preseason is all about growth. Preseason is all about getting better, both for teams who are trying to work out all the wrinkles in their offenses, defenses, and whatnot, but also for individuals. And if it's affecting him this much that he didn't play up to his own standard in a preseason game, which is effectively a glorified scrimmage, that tells you that he is going to care enough to go back and fix those mistakes, to improve and to grow. And I think that's actually very, very exciting when we're looking at the Blazers and Hansen and his future, that he cares that much about his game, that a 15-minute stint in a preseason game where he didn't play all that well is affecting him to that level. You know he's going to put in the work that's necessary to fix the mistakes that he made. So again, I think that's ultimately a positive, but not something you see every day. Players sitting on the bench crying because he wanted to play better. All right, unfortunate news out of Detroit. The injury front has not been kind across the NBA this preseason. The Pistons announcing that Jaden Ivey underwent an arthroscopic procedure earlier today. This was yesterday. It was announced to relieve right knee discomfort. The procedure and discomfort are unrelated to the fibula injury suffered last season. Remember, Ivey missed most of last season. Ivey will begin the rehabilitation process immediately and will be reevaluated in 4 weeks. So I say it all the time, but remember, reevaluate does not mean return. And so for the Pistons now to not have Jaden Ivey for the first 4 weeks of this, the season starts next week. So the first 4 weeks he's out. You can see what he did last season when he was available, but only appeared in 30 games last season for the Pistons. But when he was out there, 18, 4-4, he is extremely explosive. He's a guy who can get to the basket, no problem, does a great job out there being an attacker, pushing the pace. And now the Pistons are going to be without him for the first 4 weeks of the season. Now, the Pistons have been linked to Malik Beasley, perhaps bringing him back in. Maybe that's a path that they look at a little bit more seriously with this injury to Jaden Ivey. I'm speculating there. Obviously, a very different style of player compared to Ivey, the explosiveness, the athleticism, not on the side of Malik Beasley. But Ivey's absence is something the Pistons at least are familiar with because he had that fibula injury last season, so they know how to play without him, but they certainly don't want to. And for a Pistons team that was looking to that took a step forward last season, I thought they were a very fun team and would like to take another step forward this year, is not the way that you want to be starting things out. Again, could be worse. We're talking 4 weeks, but still, remember, reevaluate does not mean return. So reevaluate in 4 weeks. Then you're probably going to need a ramp-up process with it being a knee injury. That means he's not getting in cardio. It's going to take time to get back into shape. All of that. So I would assume that reevaluate in 4 weeks. Here we are. We are mid-October. That means we may not see Jaden Ivey back out on the court, even if he gets the green light in 4 weeks until after Thanksgiving. That could just be the reality. Right around that Thanksgiving time period is when we should hopefully get him back out on the court, because there will need to be a ramp-up process that goes along with that. So unfortunate news for the Detroit Pistons. No Jaden Ivey for the starting part here of the season. Now, I do want to jump over to Miami. Another guard said the other day, Tyler Herro did, that he wants to extend. He's expecting to get his contract extension with the Heat. He just wants a number that he feels respected at. That's what Tyler Herro wants. Tyler Herro is coming off an all-star season, but according to Brian Windhorst, there have been no substantive talks to this point, and a deal is doubtful. We are seeing some extensions get done around the NBA. Keegan Murray just got his deal done the other day. Tyler Herro, will he get a deal done with the Miami Heat? Herro sounded optimistic, but the latest report from Windhorst is sounding less so. Herro right now making $31 million this year, $33 million next year. And if you look at Miami's cap sheet, they're actually very well set up to have flexibility a couple of seasons from now, maybe next summer, especially if they do end up moving off of Andrew Wiggins' contract. There's been a lot of talk of that. I would have to assume that Andrew Wiggins, on his deal, $30 million for next year, is very, very likely to pick up that player option. So assuming he does that, that would significantly eat into their cap space for next season. But the Heat, they've got their books pretty clean for the future here. When we look at cap space for moving forward, they'll have plenty of room under the first apron, plenty of flexibility as soon as next season, especially if Andrew Wiggins' contract is not on their books. And then, that may impact what they want to do here long-term with Tyler Herro, because they could also have flexibility going into that next summer. Whether or not they're able to make the moves this coming summer, 2027 is the summer that a lot of teams are really targeting, that are looking for. I know Nikola Jokic has said he wants to play his entire career in Denver, wants to stay there. I take that at face value, but there could be other players, Giannis Antetokounmpo being a big one who could be available. We know the Miami Heat love chasing stars. So does Miami want to lock in more money for that summer, or are they going to be better off waiting on an extension with Tyler Herro, seeing how he plays this season? Maybe you figure things out next summer. Maybe you let him be an expiring contract going into the summer of 2027, and then you really just have Bam on the books. You'll have a few guys, your rookie Kelly Ware from last year. I'm very high on him, but he's extension eligible, but also has a very small team option here, $7 million, not a lot in the NBA. Kasparas Yakashonis, their draft pick from this year, at $4 million. Drew Smith has a team option here as well. So you've got a lot of flexibility in the summer of 2027 for Miami to be a big spending team. They could have a nearly clear cap sheet with the exception of Bam Adebayo's deal. And then you've got Nikola Jovic, who's, look at the way the Heat, they actually gave him an extension, but look at the way the Heat structured this. His contract, $16.2 million, then dips to $14.9. Remember, you can give guys, you don't have to give them 8% raises. You can give an 8% decrease on the previous year's salary. So the Miami Heat actually decrease the salary to $14.9 million. More evidence that they plan to be major players in 2027, which makes it perhaps a little more difficult for Tyler Herro unless he's really willing to do a team-friendly deal, as I think the Heat believe Jovic will be. And with that salary dipping in 2027, is that a big dip? We're talking about, what, $1.3 million that it dips? No, but if that makes a difference for the Heat, every dollar can count when we're looking at pursuing max tier free agents. So Tyler Herro running up against an issue where the Miami Heat very clearly want to have flexibility, want to have financial resources available to them in 2027, which is right when his extension would kick in. So what's a number that would give the Miami Heat flexibility in 2027 while also checking the box for Tyler Herro in terms of showing him that the Miami Heat respect him. That's what he wants. He wants a respectable number. It doesn't have to be a max number. And I've said it before, but the players like Tyler Herro are in this tier where teams have to be very, very careful under the new collective bargaining agreement. It's guys like Tyler Herro, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, your Austin Reeves of the world, who we're going to be keeping an eye on his contract, what that's going to look like next summer. These are the kinds of guys where they are all-star adjacent. You know, Tyler Herro made the all-star team last year, but the guys who are not a locked-in every year, that guy's a no-brainer all-star, the guys who are a tier below that, and there's other players that we could throw into that tier, those are the guys you have to be really careful with, because in today's collective bargaining agreement, it's very difficult to pay those types of players, the more third guy on a really good team, as opposed to being a second guy on a really good team. If you're paying a third guy max or anywhere near max money, it becomes very difficult to have a competitive team with the first and second guy making max money, a third guy making near max money, and have any kind of depth on your team. That's a real challenge in today's CBA. So a guy like Tyler Herro, if the Heat feel like he can be the second best guy on a championship team, okay, then of course you sign him to an extension. But I think there is reason to question whether that's the case. And if they don't believe he can be that, you need to get him at significantly below max money. And again, the same is going to be true for these other players. Lauri Markkanen has made an all-star team, but Donnie and I have talked about that. If his shooting numbers come back, he's probably worth his contract. But if they don't, he's not. And again, when we look at this cap environment, you've got to be so careful. It's part of why Russell Westbrook has a non-guaranteed contract. You have to be so careful with how you spend things and how much you inhibit your own flexibility moving forward. All right, everybody, give me your thoughts in the comment section. Tyler Herro, maybe not coming to terms with the Miami Heat. Is this all to set Miami up for a big summer in 2027? Your thoughts on young Hansen crying on the bench for the Blazers. Let me know your thoughts on Russell Westbrook as well. Him having a non-guaranteed contract, bit of a surprise there. And then Jaden Ivey, some rough news for the Pistons. We got into a lot today, didn't we? We got into a lot. Maybe some more stuff coming this afternoon as well. So make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.